If nothing else is true of the Lahmian Vampires, is that they certainly know how to ride in style, and the Coven Throne is no exception. The daughters of Neferata are borne aloft by the spirits of the victims they've slain because they're way too fancy to be trudging in the dirt and the muck with the plebs and the zombos and the skelly boys. And I'm gonna be honest, this Coven Throne is one of those centerpiece units for the vampire accounts that I'm really sad we never got to see in an official capacity, because it is absolutely gorgeous in more ways than one, and it's a mobile terror platform that has carried over quite a lot of the special rules that made it unique on the tabletop. It's only available in Mixu's All Tabletop Lords mod, but it is a lot of fun, and it will be the centerpiece for this match between the vampire counts and the High Elves of Ulthuan. So a lot of the special rules that made this thing unique in the tabletop have been carried over, like I said, and we're going to go over those now. So the first one is Scrying Pool, so every time she casts, she's going to be regenerating quite a bit of her own health. The Battle of Wills is a constant hex around her that will imbue a -8 leadership, which is penalty, which is really nice. I mean, think about debuffing an enemy battle line like that all the time, constantly, very powerful. And then Seduction is kind of like Marathi, with her Enchanting Beauty, -9 melee attack and -8% charge bonus in an AoE around the Coven Throne. On top of all that, she retains her Immortal Will, as well the heroes in the Vampire Counts roster, the Handmaidens have that, and so, I mean, think about how good that is on top of a gigantic chariot. Being able to regen on a 60-second cooldown is super nice, but you look at her stats, they're pretty terrible. 18 melee defense, 30 melee attack. It can definitely do a lot of damage against infantry. It has a high HP pool, but it's more of a debuffer than something that can go toe-to-toe with a lot of other monsters or big scary things like that. On top of all that, she also has Beguile. So a Hex, it's kind of like a net, -22 melee attack, and will prevent an enemy from moving. Doesn't have a massive amount of range, but you can prevent enemy charge bonuses from getting off that way. And honestly, this thing is just a fantastic way to anchor your battle line and debuff on enemies. On top of all that, we're rocking with a Skeleton and Graveguard frontline, with the Sternsman Graveguard on the right flank, Terrorgeist in the skies to provide some of that terrifying, nightmarish breath attacks, and basically just the melee that makes it so potent. Really good bonus for Large, and Poison, Armor Piercing will make it a nice choice against the High Elves if they're not fielding a bunch of dragons. And then on the flanks, Blood Knights are, well, they're Blood Knights. They're one of my favorite units in all of Warhammer. Fantastic heavy cavalry. I've seen a lot of discussion about them recently, like, oh, they're not as good as other heavy cavalry units. They can't go toe-to-toe. The reason they're so expensive, the reason why they're so powerful, is because they synergize exceptionally well with Invocation of Nahek. No other cavalry in the entire game can regenerate models. Certainly there's regrowth, there's stuff that can keep cavalry in the fight, but being able to bring back powerful models like these with their overwhelming stat line and their great ability to hammer anvil, there's nothing quite like it. So, no, they are not literally the best head-to-head cavalry in the game, but they don't need to be, because they can regenerate more than any other cav, and that is incredibly powerful in and of itself. So we also have a Necromancer to be raising some zombies in the back lines, and the Dire Pack on the left flank as well. And for the lady herself, she's rocking a mix of the lore of vampires and the lore of shadows, Von Hall's Danse Macabre, Invocation of Nahek, and Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. As we shift over across Death Pass, Imrik of Caledor is leading the armies of the High Elves, and he is one of those very cost-efficient lords. Not very expensive, especially if you choose to forgo his items, and he has 72 melee attack, 72 melee defense, so pretty ridiculous stat line. 120 armor, not exceptional weapon strength by any means, but one of those lords that you would want to pick if you want to go pretty wide, and that's kind of what the elves have done here. 3 regular archers, 2 Sword Masters of Hoeth, a front line of High Elf Spearmen, a Lore of Shadows caster with Enfeebling Foe, and Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma. And on this flank, the Dragon Princes of Caledor, who, in a 1v1 engagement against Blood Knights, may not fare incredibly well. They certainly won't do bad, and if they're backed up by Earthblood or Regrowth, they can actually perform very exceptionally. But I would say that overall, that engagement will favor the Blood Knights simply because they have that Invocation of Nahek to bring back models, and once a Dragon Prince dies, there's no coming back, unless it's as an undead. But if you want to turn that cavalry fight in your favor, this is an absolutely brilliant tactic to do. Back them up by Phoenix Guard or something that has a lot of AP. And that is exactly what these guys will bring to the table. Being able to operate out on the flank, they're not going to have the mobility, of course, but if he takes a good engagement here, they could definitely turn the favor in the Dragon Princes. So, Lord of Shadows caster doing a little bit of skirmishing early on, and I want to funnel these High Elves straight up the center towards my army because these Blood Knights are lying in wait. Just waiting for an opportunity to go downhill, get into the rear, and get those beautiful hammer and anvils off that they're so well known for. So these Blood Knights are going to be absolutely the core of my army here, the important hammer that kind of puts the nail in the coffin for the High Elves, proverbial nail there, and Blood Knights will be on the flanks ready to engage the Dragon Princes. Early Melkoth Mystifying Miasma to whittle down these Graveguard. I'm not going to worry too much about Invocation and the hacking that because I'll wait until we get an actual engagement going. One thing about the Coven Throne and the Mortis engine, God, I want CA to fix this so bad. It is obscenely loud. I have turned my volume almost all the way down, yet when it moves sometimes, when it attacks, it is just absurd how loud it gets. So we'll try to deal with that. It will probably interrupt my commentary at least once this game, but we'll just have to get over it. Now you'll see over here, one thing I see a lot of people do with Terrorgeist and Dragon Breath is against cavalry, they'll try to do one very early on when they're not pinned. That's a waste. I mean, look, a lot of the time you're not going to be able to use all three of your Dragon Breaths in a game anyway, but it's really easy to dodge breath attacks with cavalry, especially fast ones like 78 speed Dragon Princes, because it's a big wind-up, it's telegraphed, it's very easy to dodge. So holding on to that until they're pinned in place is much better. Not only that, but when they're moving out on the flank like that, they're kind of in loose formation. When they get committed into melee, they get a lot more blobbed up, and that's where Dragon Breath or Terrorgeist Breath can really punish them. Early on, gonna summon some zombies to kind of zone out those archers as we move up. I just want to get into melee now. Zombies will be able to push them back, and my Graveguard are taking quite a beating on the way in, but they've got shields, so they'll do okay. Silver block chance is alright. And Imrik charging up the center now into the thick of the fighting as Dragon Princes and Blood Knights charge forward. Now, important to note here, I did miss the Beguile. I did not get my net off in time. I don't know if they were quite out of range or if I just didn't notice in time, but either way, Dragon Princes did get the charge off, and both of them actually are winning their engagements handily right off the charge here. So Blood Knights are already down to almost half strength, but Van Hels's Danse Macabre will be a very nice buff. 66 melee attack is impressive. Terrorgeist into the back, and then an Invocation to heck on top of that will keep them in the fight. And they don't have healing support this game, which will be really useful in the cavalry fight for me, and mean I can kind of outlast them. Necromancer got a little bit too far up here, taking some damage from the High Elf Spearman and Imrik, as Imrik kind of anchors the line for his High Elf Spears. Just killing some zombies right now, but we'll summon some more zombies, and another Melkoth Mystifying Miasma has gone down on the Skeleton Warriors. So, looking at an overview of the battlefield here, we can see that my Blood Knights now have an opportunity to do one of two things. I can either go directly for the back of those Sword Masters of Hoeth, or I can go for the Archers. And even though they have that Flag of Blood keep, that 22% missile resist, I think it'll be better to go for the Archers here, because shutting those down early will be a really big boon for this battle. I can then, afterwards, after the Sternsmen have whittled them down a little bit more, I can go for the Hammer and Anvil on the main battle line. But Dragon Princes have kind of squeezed their way out of that fight as the Coven Throne tries to buff up the fight on the left flank, and they're going to get a Hammer and Anvil off into the back here. A glorious charge into the Graveguard and the Skeleton Warriors, and they'll keep moving. I would have stayed in combat a little bit longer there. Remember that charge dissipates over about a 10-second period, so you'd like them to stay in melee a little bit longer, but still going to get another rear charge off and do quite a bit of damage as the Blood Knights come in, and this will be glorious as well. And I mean, there are a few things in Warhammer quite as gorgeous as a Blood Knight charge as they start decapitating their enemies in the back. So we're completely zoning out these archers here, and a tail of heavy cavalry so far. Both heavy cavalry units for both factions making quite a big impact at the moment, but this is an engagement that I want. Coven Throne, Terrorgeist, and Blood Knights all on top of these Dragon Princes, and this will be beautiful. Terrorgeist with Van Hels's Danse Macabre will give him 52 melee attack, which is scary, because one of the few things about Terrorgeist that's weak is that they have kind of low melee attack. But you buff that up, and they're going to be hitting like trucks. Dragon Princes are falling like crazy, and the Coven Throne being a beast in the center. Not great against large targets, but certainly going to be able to debuff the melee stats of all these units and make me win this melee engagement quite a bit more handily than I would normally be able to. Blood Knights are still running roughshod in the back here. I mean, they're just having a field day. 64 kills right now. Sword Masters are closing in. I don't want to engage them because they have AP. No real point. But I do have an opportunity to kind of shimmy my way away and get a chimichanga charge into the back of these Sword Masters. And that's exactly what I'm going to try to do. Phoenix Guard have gotten into a really good position here, fighting my Coven Throne though. And over a long engagement, they will absolutely be able to whittle them down. But this chariot has the mass and the speed to kind of push her way through and get away from these engagements that she doesn't want to be in. So Phoenix Guard can't really catch up to her very easily, and I have so many heals on her, I don't really have to worry about just fighting Phoenix Guard. If there's something pinning her in place, it'd be a much bigger problem, but for now, I can kind of let those Karen Race do their thing and kind of munch up these Phoenix Guard while she takes a little bit of damage, pull out, and then go for something else. Charging into the flank of these Swordmasters of Hoeth, we're going to get a breath attack off too, and that Shriek will be glorious into the middle of the Swordmasters. Look at their health drop like crazy. They have 112 kills, but they're going to have, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot more after that. Getting jibbed by the Shriek here, and then Terrorgeist charge can come in from behind, as well as that Coven Throne, and a Blood Knight charge for good measure, and those Swordmasters are no longer having a good time. Beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. Really good engagement in the center there, and we're melting stuff. Imrik up to 30 kills right now. Terrorgeist actually going for the flanking charge here, which is probably a better choice, because you don't want to stack up that Terror. Kind of waste it if you're putting 2 Terror units in the exact same spot on the battlefield. And so he'll be able to help shift this a little bit more in my favor. The Sternsmen can't really go toe-to-toe with Swordmasters too well, and my Blood Knights are free. And there are a few Dragon Princes left, but not very many of them. And as the zombies kind of start cycling in, we've got another rear charge off of the Dragon Princes here, and balance bar definitely shifting a little bit in my favor. But things are far from over. A lot of things to think about right now. Terrorgeist is free, can get more Shrieks off if I need to. One thing I definitely want to do is zone out these archers and prevent them from firing into my kind of squishier main line. And yeah, look at that. One attack, about 12 kills off of that, and it'll get even crazier as the vampire lady starts teaching them how Lahmians do business. And all these spirits will be able to shred their way through, and it is a bloodbath. A vampiric orgy back here, and that is a fun time for sure. She's shredding through those archers, already up to 52 kills, and that will continue to rise. Blood Knight's getting Milk Off, Mystifying Miasma, a great way to kind of lower their mobility and lower their HP over time, and a breath attack into the flank of the Phoenix Guard will get that Terrorgeist up to 66 kills now, and he can land, go after those Dragon Princes, and start munching on them. Now, it's interesting because a lot of the time High Elves will go for aerial dominance against the vampire accounts, and a lot of the time that can be a really good thing, but I think vampires are actually a faction that if they go double Terrorgeist build with Red Duke can sometimes contest the air against the High Elves, and so not always the best idea to try to contest that, as the Blood Knights get another beautiful charge off here, just absolutely flattening those High Elf Spearmen. It can be a pretty interesting matchup. A lot of mind games in both the Vampire counts and High Elf rosters. A lot of things you can field. Coven Throne obviously providing more utility than a lot of other Lord choices for the High Elves. Man, I would love to see this beautiful model make it into the vanilla game. I mean, it's seriously amazing, and I would love to see them with Neferata. As you guys know, Neferata, one of my most anticipated lords in the series. Kind of sad that we haven't gotten her so far. As much as the vampires have gotten love in the series, they need Neferata to really flesh them out, and Nagash as well, obviously. He's not a vampire, but you know what I mean. But yeah, the Terrorgeist can land here. Imrik will try to fight the big, terrifying bat monster, but he doesn't have a bonus for large. He doesn't have a lot of AP, and the Phoenix Guard making their last hand here as the undead completely overwhelm them. Coven Throne coming in for the charge, and pretty much we have free reign in the battlefield. Archers will rout soon. Imrik will rout. That will be your battle. So the Coven Throne is one of those centerpiece units that I think can be shut down pretty handily, simply because it has a really terrible stat line. 18 melee defense is bad, but it has an obscene amount of regen. It's very easy to burst if you can get monsters on top of it, like Star Dragon, like a net into a Sisters of Avalorn combo, and then maybe a breath attack on top of that. You can absolutely melt it in seconds, but it is also one of those centerpiece units that you cannot let escape, because there are very few things in the game that can heal to the extent that it can, because it has a mortal will, and it has that scrying pool. Every single time it casts, it'll be getting a bunch of regen. So if you want to deal with it, definitely need to make sure you goon it real quick, net it in place, breath it, do whatever you can to burst it, and make sure that that initial attack is overwhelming, brings it all the way to 0. Because if you let it escape, it will regen back up to full, and that's going to be a big problem for your army. Can't invest a lot if you aren't sure that you can bring it down. Dragon Princes did relatively well. I think they were used okay going for the Dire Pack and the Blood Knights, they definitely got good charges off, got a good engagement there. But the Coven Throne was there to sweep in and kind of lower their melee stats. And while the Phoenix Guard would have definitely been able to tip that in their favor normally, I think that -9 melee attack aura was a pretty big factor for sure. And the Blood Knights had a field day after that initial engagement. Some Invocation of the Hex got them back up to full, and they could go in for the Hammer and Anvils, and that ambush was definitely a big one. Managed to swoop down the hill from the left flank, get in the rear, shut down a bunch of the archers, and then get another charge into the Swordmasters of Hoeth. That's a great way to turn a regular melee fight in your favor. Necromancer, very cheap, cost-efficient way to get some more numbers and bodies on the field, summoning those zombos all over, and Graveguard, they're just very cost-efficient. Great way to provide some infantry power on the front line for not an expensive cost. Terrorgeist, 70 kills, 2 very good breath attacks, one of them against Swordmasters, one of them against Phoenix Guard, and yeah, just a mobile terror platform, really awesome, and she was pretty beastly as well. She's a great support lord, great way to anchor the line, get in the thick of it, and turn things in your favor. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some more Lahmian Vampires as we move forward in the trilogy. Hopefully with Nagash, I think Neferata would be a perfect capstone unit for the Vampire roster. Even though they have gotten a lot of love, I think they need the Queen of Nightmares for sure. I think she's way too awesome to forgo in this trilogy. So I hope you guys enjoyed that game. There will be plenty more Mixu content coming soon. We'll be seeing some other lords with the vanilla gameplay. I think it's fun to just get a little bit more lord variety, but still have that vanilla multiplayer experience as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Any Pride, signing out for now. Peace out.